I left corporate so long ago, but I see a lot of my clients really struggle with what you're talking about. It's so structured and you're kind of told, go this direction, do this. Well, I find my clients who leave corporate or they have a side hustle or they don't know how to set goals. They don't know how to state a revenue goal because that was kind of always structured in for them. So now they have to create the structure for themselves and the discipline for themselves. Introducing The Vixen Voice, a podcast for ambitious women entrepreneurs ready to move into their feminine essence, live their truth, and unlock their full potential. I'm your host, April Roberts, and each week I'll be interviewing inspiring women who decided to take a leap of faith to pursue their dream. Women who believe that they were born for something bigger. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of The Vixen Voice. Today we have a fun panel. There are three of us here, and we are going to be reminiscing about our first year in business. So, if you're listening and you're thinking about starting a business, this is going to be such a valuable conversation for you. If you're in that first year of business, so hopefully you find it inspiring if you're looking to start. If you're in that first year of business, then maybe you're going to see that we feel you, we've been there too, and you're not alone. And if you're later in your business, I hope it inspires you to think back to the beginning. Maybe you were more excited, maybe you were more tenacious, but we always want to reflect back and say, hey, I'm proud of myself. I was really tenacious. I was really excited. Just kind of reminisce with us and see if there's any lessons you can bring forward to this part of your business. So I'm excited about this and we're going to dig in. And today I have two of my favorite people on here. So we have Ty Robinson. She's a realtor in Houston, Texas area, and she is the founder of the Ty Robinson Group. She has her own group. And Ty, you've been doing a lot of new builds lately, right? That's been a big focus of yours?
I have, and it's very interesting that we're here talking about first year in business because it's kind of my career coming full circle because that's how I started in real
Ah.
estate with new construction.
I love it. So I can't wait to dig in. And disclaimer, because Ty is such a dedicated realtor, she is live at an open house right now. So if you see people walk by her, just ignore them, right? We are rolling with it. So thank you, Ty, for joining us. And Amanda Kaufman. So Amanda and I are in the Edge Mastermind together. That's Dean Graziosi's mastermind. And it's so funny because I met her like twice and we just didn't really go deep in convo. Like there's a lot going on when you're there. And she reached out to me and said, hey, I'd love to have a call and get to know you better. And we were like two freaking peas in a pod within 30 minutes. So we've had multiple calls since then. We're trying to figure out how we can joint venture and create some stuff together. So I just want to tell you, like when someone reaches out or don't, I'm a huge fan of making friends via the internet, at events, etc. Like really get to know people. If you don't gel, okay, you had a great conversation. If you do gel, you never know what magic's going to come out of it. And Amanda is the founder of the Coaches Plaza. Yep, you have two coaches on today, so Ty, you're in trouble. But anyway, we're all going to share our business. So welcome, ladies. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. Really, really excited.
Yeah,
Excited
I
to be
love
here.
it. So I want to dig into our conversation because I know we have so much to share. But first, it's both of your first times on the Vixen Voice. So I'd like to hear from each of you. I'm going to go to Ty first, and then Amanda, I'd love to hear from you. I just want to hear, we women are all so different. I like to say we're multifaceted. Some people might call us complicated or difficult. I like to say we're multifaceted, like a gemstone, right? And each of us are a different color gemstone. So we bring different stuff to the table and we've had different life experiences, right? So my question I love to ask is, I have these two amazingly beautiful, successful women sitting in front of me. If you think back, what's a pivotal moment in your life, either in business or personal life, that you feel really helped create the woman you are today?
I think for me, it was seeing the power of your mind,
Oh, I
and
like it.
I remember when I was in my first year of business, I had to stick post-it notes that I wrote everything. It's kind of like I guess a vision board, if you will, but instead of
Yeah.
pictures, it was everything I wanted from like how much I wanted to make, what I wanted to accomplish, where I wanted to live, what I wanted to be like physically, mentally, spiritually. And every day, I think when I started working for myself, I was trying to establish a routine. And then I was like reading all these books and it was like, you got to wake up super early and do this. And I would sit in the morning and I would stare at it. And so as I started to, progress, the first year was very difficult, but
Yeah.
when I look back now, I still have that big post-it note and I can look at it and see how many things I was able to cross off and accomplish. Um, and I feel like that was because I was always reminded every day of why I made the decisions I made and why I was going through some of the things that I went through because I knew where I wanted to be. So just, I think that was a big part of, I feel like, who I am today is being able to see that, like, I wanted these things. I
Hmm.
focused on these things. In a lot of ways, I manifested these things through hard work and just grit and focus. And to see them
Yeah.
come to fruition has been a beautiful thing.
I love it. I like to call that compelling vision of the future, and I coach to it because when you have that vision, you can look at it on the tough days, right? And say, oh, yeah, that's why I'm making this 50th call, or that's why I'm sending this 30th DM, right? Or having my 10th call of the day. So I love that. That's really beautiful. And I like because I know you're a very organized, numbers oriented woman. And so I love that you had it on a big post it note to start because I like to tell people it doesn't have to be fancy, right? Just have it in front of your face. Just remember, do it in a way that really you viscerally feel that. So it's not just mental, but you're like compelling yourself towards your future. So I love that. That's beautiful, Ty. Thanks for sharing. And Amanda, what came up for you when I asked for a pivotal story that helped carve out the woman we see today?
Oh my goodness. So for me, what came up, it's funny enough, it was about a post-it as well.
I love it.
I know, right? We have our tools, don't we? So for me though, the really pivotal moment actually came about 4 or 5 months into the I'm gonna do it phase of my first year. So what had led to I'm gonna do it is that I had been in corporate for 10 years and I found myself in a situation I really didn't like at work. And I now know I lacked at the time some influence tools and the confidence to really resolve that. And the way I decided to go about things was say, well, you know what? I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I guess I'll just quit and I'll go do that now. So the pivotal moment came though when I got all those ducks in a row, as we ladies especially love to do. I took the courses, I hired the coaches, I did all the things you're supposed to do. My coaching certification said, okay, now we want you to go and get 10 complimentary coaching sessions done with people who are not your friends and not related to you. Like you've got to go and find 10 people. And I sat down with my post-its and I wrote down 8 names. And I needed 10, but I wrote down 8. And I really wasn't present to just how socially isolated I had become because I had relied so much on my job, my corporate situation.
Mhm.
I literally married a man I met from work. So I didn't realize just how far away from my goals I really was because of social anxiety and being scared to connect and meet with people. So that was my biggest mountain that I had to overcome, and I did. I figured it
Yeah.
out, but it was pivotal to realize, goodness, if you're going to be in business, you got to be good with people.
I love that. And one of my clients, and she's also my best friends, helped me realize. See, last year she was on the podcast, and I asked her, like, what do you love most about being an entrepreneur? What's been your biggest, And I thought it was gonna be like, oh, I'm making so much money, like, and she said the relationships, because when she did what she was doing in a more corporate setting or working for someone else, there's kind of like this fine line you can walk with relationships when it's not your business, right? Like you have to stay professional, etc. And she said she really loved, she does event planning. So when she was doing event planning for someone else, like there was, that line and she really loved her clients, but you couldn't pass that. And she was like, now my clients are my best friends. And like, I feel like that in my coaching business too. So I think like, I feel like the richness of relationships is so fulfilling in entrepreneurship, and you don't realize that until you get there. So it's like one of those added benefits you get, right?
Yeah,
Awesome.
I completely
Well,
agree with that. And just really quick on that, I think a lot of times you don't realize how essential it is to be
yeah.
good with people, you know? And in corporate you get away with a lot because everything's so structured. And I also
Yeah.
didn't even realize how much I feared rejection by other people because of where I'd grown up in my career.
That's amazing. And now you coach other people how to not do that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I was telling Ty before this, my whole thing is meet people, talk to people, fit with people, and coach the people. And you're going to have fewer and fewer and fewer as you go down that path. But that's basically it. Meet them, talk, fit, coach.
Yeah, I think for me, when I first started, I had, like you mentioned, Amanda, like being in a corporate setting, like you're kind of
Mhm.
like within these lines. And then working for yourself, you're kind of just like dropped out there and you're just knocking your head against the wall until you figure it out. And so, since this is a contact sport, this is like a people business. I think one of my biggest lessons was that when I was trying all these different ways, like, oh, I have to be this type of salesperson. You see, like selling sunset and all these shows, and like, I have to be like this. And then what I realized was, no, I just had to be my authentic self and show up as my authentic self, and that's what people loved about me because I'm not for everybody, and that's okay. But
Yeah.
I do have my tribe, and that's and showing up as myself, I was able to attract those clients and those, the people that needed my help and would receive me how I am. I think that was a really important lesson for me in this business.
I love that. And also, what I see in the collective and with my consulting clients is, because I left corporate so long ago that I forgot all of these things. Like, it's been like 2 decades almost since I know it has been 2 decades since I left corporate. But, I see a lot of my clients really struggle with what you're talking about beyond the people aspect, which you've kind of opened my eyes to a issue I think one of my clients is having. So thank you. Now I can help guide her there or let her know she's not alone. But an issue I see them is what you said, it's so structured and you're kind of told, go this direction, do this. Well, I find my clients who leave corporate or they have a side hustle or they don't know how to set goals. They don't know how to state a revenue goal because that was kind of always structured in for them. So now they have to create the structure for themselves and the discipline for themselves. And, that's the curriculum we run through, like getting that stuff in place. So thanks for sharing. I like thinking about it from the people aspect too, because I'll never forget when I was working in a law firm and then we went to dinner with some of my friends that were non-lawyers and I was like, are we speaking a foreign language? It was like, the non lawyers and the lawyers couldn't talk to each other because you get so stuck in your culture at work, right? Like that you talk a certain way and you act a certain way, and you really do become kind of antisocial. So it's an interesting concept. I love that. So, what I would like to do is let's reminisce a little. So, first of all, Amanda and Ty, share with us how long you've been in business. So, when was it that you made that leap and left corporate and went out on your own?
So I started my leap in 2016, but I've actually formed the LLC in 2017. So yeah,
Love
math.
it.
That's like what, 7 years?
And how about you, Ty?
So I woke up one morning and quit my job, and that was in 2018, March of 2018, and I've been full time. And actually this year I crossed another threshold. I just got my broker's license. So it's kind of cool to see like, how all this has transitioned and grown. So
I love it. So we're going to celebrate your win. I saw Amanda already do it. I believe we got to stop and celebrate the win, right? Yes. Because we are women on the go and sometimes we forget to like celebrate the win and move on. So I love it. Congratulations. So what I would love to hear is if you think back to your first year of business, what was your favorite part? What was your favorite part of being an entrepreneur and out on your own?
I think it was for me, it was implementing like just trying different stuff,
Yeah.
like just trying to see like what was working for me and what wasn't. And being able, I was already, like you mentioned earlier in corporate, we already have like these kind of like, you have performance reviews and like all this stuff that's already structured for you.
Hmm.
But for me, I really was able to take a lot of those like tools and put them in my own little
Yep.
toolbox. And I kind of was creating my own little thing. And that was exciting for me to say, like, I picked pieces of what I liked and didn't like and kind of did my own thing. So for me, it was like, it wasn't very pretty, but it was a piece of paper. And it was like, I want to make this much money. So I need to sell this many houses and talk to this many people and, you
Yes.
know, and do all these things. So it was a way for me to, I mean, I held myself accountable. So I think what was so exciting was seeing what was working and what wasn't. And then I could ditch, you know, what wasn't. And there was nobody to tell me that, no, you can't do that. Like I got to choose which parts I wanted to keep and which parts I didn't.
Yeah. No, I love that. Amanda, what was your favorite part?
Oh my gosh. It was such a crazy year. I actually launched during my maternity leave and had my baby, my number four, in that first year. I remember being on maternity leave and I'm like, I'm gonna get purple and pink hair and I'm gonna get sparkles on my nails and I'm gonna go
It's
join
so
these
you.
clubs and I'm gonna go do all these things. And it was just like girls gone, you know, crazy with, and I was ignorance on fire too. Like I think I was just, I had a lot of faith, but a lot of fear at the same time. And I think the thing I'm the most excited about from that first year was really finding mentors and people who believed in like me and I felt like I was seen
Yeah.
for the first time and firing my boss 6 weeks early. Oh, that was sweet. That was so good.
I love it. I love it. I so my first business I started in 2008 and I remember adventure is one of my three personal core values. So for me it was one big adventure. And I mean, I was leaving, a marriage with an addict, so like everything was fun and new to me, right? Like just to have positive stuff. So, and to be whole again. But yeah, in 2008 I remember I was working with my dad and we got our own website and I was like, "Oh, this is so cool. We have a website," right? Like it was an ordeal to get the photographer and everything, but like yeah, it was just that everything was new and an adventure and it was like so fun and like everything was a big deal, right? So that was my favorite part of then. And my favorite part of last year, which was my first full year with the Vixen gathering, I think was really my favorite part's the relationships I've made. So through the podcast, through clients, even through like sales calls that maybe they didn't become clients, but we became friends, or DMing someone because I thought they were cool on social media. I think it's kind of that whole new social opening, like you're talking about, because in my financial practice, I had hundreds of clients, I had a team. So that and bringing in new business took in all my energy. So I didn't have time to like make new friends and be out there. So, yeah, I think that was that's what I'm really enjoying, connecting with women on a deeper level, like a really nice, deep level. So, I love that. So, if you think back to the first year, I don't want to say what was your least favorite, but there's always a shock to becoming an entrepreneur, right? So, if you're listening and you're in your first year, but like, what maybe shocked you or surprised you, like how difficult it was? I was just talking to someone and they were like, I didn't know how lonely it would feel, right? So, like, what was something maybe you weren't prepared for that an obstacle you had to overcome in that first year?
I was shocked about how many people thought I was losing my mind. Like,
Oh,
how many
interesting.
people were like, you know, are you sure this is what you need to be doing? Like, you have all these degrees and certifications and experience. Like, why do you want to choose this path? You know,
Yes.
so it was shocking to me. Like, I'll never forget. I always tell this story. I won't say her name, but I was in the grocery store and a family friend I saw her at on the milk, like, you know, in the back of most grocery stores are set up the same way. So it was like the dairy section.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hey, miss, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, guess what? I quit my job. I'm so excited. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And she like literally stopped. She put her milk in her cart and then she started touching my forehead and she said, are you sick? Are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm like giving entrepreneurship a shot, and so that's one of, and fast forward today, this is one of like the women on Facebook that's like rooting for me, like, yay, Ty,
Oh.
I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you. So it's like funny to see like that was, that transition. But yeah, that was shocking. Like family, friends that were like that, and I think it was out of a genuine place, right? A
Yeah.
genuine place of concern. But it was shocking to see how many people thought I was kind of losing it
I
for betting on myself.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny because I remember back. So 2008 is when I became a financial advisor, right? Like quit law to be go into the financial world. And if you remember what was going on in 2008, I just remember, Ja, all my lawyer friends were like, "Have you lost your freaking mind? Have you seen what's going on in the economy?" But actually, because it was a bad time, our clients needed us more, and that's what made me fall in love with what I did in finance, right? Because if you go in the good times, like you don't really understand, and I don't think you can serve them well. So it turned out to be a blessing, but that's funny. I just remembered that. So, Amanda, how about you? What was shocking to you your first year in business or surprising?
Oh, so like I honestly, it was like everything was shocking. I was shocked by what everything cost. I was shocked by my own
Mhm.
personal finances and like how bougie I was when I was in corporate and didn't care. And then like all of a sudden I'm like an entrepreneur. I'm like, how much is that program? Oh my goodness, and like it just felt like everything was expensive, but also so was I. And like and Ty, I had like the exact same experience. I had relatives who frankly never spoke to me, but made sure to talk to my mother and find out whether I was qualified and whether I needed a PhD to do what I was doing. And I was like, my goodness, I was really surprised about this social ripple because I was like, y'all did not care before. Like, I guess you care now a little, but I don't know. That was a rough season in some ways. I
Yeah.
had I lost friends over this. Yeah.
Well, before you were in the safe box that they could feel comfortable with, right? Darren Hardy talks a lot about the crabs in the trap. Like the top of the crab trap is open because if one crab tries to crawl out, everybody's pulling them back. And again, like Ty said, it's coming from a good place. They don't want to lose that person, right? But it scares the people around you that you're changing because they're afraid they're going to lose you, and you have to have that fortitude. And that's why like your sticky note's so important, because every day you got to say, yes, that's why I'm doing it. That's my future. Like, this is worth it, right? And whatever your version of that is. I mean, I do that every morning. I pull up on my desktop my compelling vision of my future and I look at it. And 3 times a day, do you do it? Is that what you're sharing, Amanda? I
Yeah,
like it.
yeah. I actually have a minimum standard of 3 times a day because I used to do it as part of my morning routine, as we are taught to do. And one of the recent up levels I got from one of my coaches was 3 times a day. And I was like, gosh, yeah, that makes sense. Because,
I like
things
it.
happen by lunchtime.
Yeah, or when you have that mid afternoon slump, if you get that or whatever's going on. So I love that. So, where you are now, like you're both killing it. You're super successful at what you do. I know that we look at ourselves and we only see the gap where we want to go, right? But I want you to look back a second and reflect on how far you've come up the mountain. Like the view is different from here, right? And so, what would be like 1 to 3 pieces of advice that you would give to your first year business self?
It gets easier.
Have patience, but not too much. Right. So, I think sometimes when we're newpreneurs, we hear stories like, oh, it takes 3 years to turn a profit.
Mhm.
Oh, be patient for the
I hate
process. It's
that,
like,
by the way. I hate when people say
yeah,
that. Sorry.
like the frame here, friends, is be patient with the results, but do not be patient with your
Yeah.
action. Right? Like
Yeah.
get into action. I actually have do what matters tattooed on my arm because I'm like, you've got to do what matters. And that really does require letting go of what you thought did to make room for what does now. So the patience is like to allow a result to occur. Like April, I love how you shared that you and I saw each other and we were like, "Hey," at the mastermind, but it was just like you said, chaos, so it didn't land and connect. And but by doing what mattered and like having a connection is like, wow, gosh, 6 months later or something like that, something else could occur. And so, don't squish your results by being impatient, but don't sit around waiting for it.
Yeah, I agree. And, the reason I don't like when people say it takes 2 years or 3 years to turn a profit, I was in a Facebook group the other day and someone said that, and I was like, how far am I going to take challenging the statement, right? Because again, it's not coming from a bad place, but this woman's new to business. She's asking for your help. You are planting the seed that she's not going to make money for 2 years. How about this? Let's make money the first year because we're not running a charity. We're running a business. And look, if you want to run a charity, that's 100% okay, but make the choice. Is this a charity? Is this a hobby? Is this a business? And, this comes from a place that I had some pain in the last year because I've built a successful business to multiple seven figures. I sold for multiple seven figures. I'm like, cool, I got this. I know business, right? You come in and it's a little bit different than naive April that started a business in 2008. It's like, okay, I got this. The difference is in 2008, April had $10,000 in her bank account because my husband had spent all our money, was broken from a divorce, was rediscovering life. Like there was no option to fail, right? So 2023, April was a lot more comfy and cozy. Let's just be honest. And the business was kind of, I love what I do, but it was kind of like a hobby at first. I was like, I don't really have to make money at this. So when I say this, it comes from experience. And when I said, this is not an option. I'm going to be profitable. In fact, I'm going to go over 6 figures a month this year and basically burn the ships. This business is not an option. It's not an option to fail. My business immediately that month shot up and it was truly a business and no longer a hobby. And I share that very vulnerably because it really, you have to watch your mindset and you have to watch where you are. Like you said, you came in bougie from corporate, right? Yeah, when I worked in a law firm, I was 25 driving a convertible Mercedes, living in the best part of Atlanta, right? And then, luckily I went through that period of not having money due to my marriage. So the first time around, April was really hungry, right? When she started the business. The second time around, maybe not so hungry, and you do have to adjust. I remember the first time my dad going, you have over 100,000 miles in your car. And I was like, I don't care. I have a new business. I'm going to keep driving it. I'm fine. Right. So I do think it's worth just be honest with yourself. You get to know yourself. Would y'all agree? I think entrepreneurship is the single best form of personal growth that exists. You get to know yourself real well, and you have to love that person.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And April, you and I are both certified high performance coaches. And one
Yep.
of the things that I learned is that the highest performers have remarkable necessity. And after
Yeah.
working with hundreds and hundreds of coaches, I'm here to tell you that the difference between those who won and those who maybe took a different path was
Mm-hmm.
definitely, I could measure necessity with it. And I think, especially if you're
Yeah.
coming from a background where you don't have to worry about money, don't use money as your necessity.
Yep.
Use your impact as necessity. Use
Mm-hmm.
your standards that you hold yourself to and how you see yourself as your necessity. There's lots of ways to activate it.
Well, and one thing I would say is don't allow other people to compare you to them or to other people, right? Because, you know, Ty, I know you're single like me, and a lot of times people want to compare things. I'm like, look, you got a partner at home. I don't care if your husband only does 10%. You got somebody else there, right? So I don't take stuff from my married friends. If they want to give me advice, I'm like, that's cool and all, but you don't really know what my life's like. I'm not sitting here telling you what to do at home, right? So again, it's well-meaning people trying to help you, but be very real about your life because we women tend to say, "Oh, it's okay. Oh, I don't need that. Oh, I can clean the house and run a business and do this and look great every day." guess what? You can't. Something has to go. So, do you want to hire a housekeeper and then they're gainfully employed and happy? Do you want to go get blowouts so you look good every day? I'm sure, Ty, you want to look good when you show up at houses, right? It's part of your job. And just understand, like, you don't have to be superhuman where you keep all the balls in the air. So, what is one thing through entrepreneurship that maybe you'll either, I like to say, you delegate, ditch, or write a check, right? So either, it could be as simple as I'm not washing the dishes anymore, honey, that's your job, that's delegating, or you delegate to a team member, or you realize, you know what, this isn't that important. I don't have time for it, so you ditch it. Or you write a check, meaning you hire someone to help you. So, what was like one big thing that you either delegated, ditched, or wrote a check for that you think made a big difference in your entrepreneurial career?
For me, it was, and this is honestly through networking with other real estate
Mm-hmm.
professionals when I learned the point when you needed help. Because I was so used to doing everything, wearing all the different hats.
Yep.
So bringing on a team assistant that handles the paperwork, the marketing, like all of
Mm-hmm.
those different things was like a weight off on my shoulder because oftentimes it's being a real estate professional, you're in the car, you're driving, and you're like, all these text messages, emails, and it's like people want responses now and not being, and like that used to give me such a high level of anxiety because it's like
Yeah.
I don't text and drive. I don't, so now being able to have somebody to step in and be like, okay, this is my role and this is what I do. It's
Mm-hmm.
lightening that load and made me more effective for me and as well as my team. Like we can lean on her for the things that can be delegated and that you can just pay somebody for.
Yeah, and then you show up better in what you're really good at, right? And so you impact people's lives even more because you have that time and energy. I love it. Thank you. Amanda, how about you?
Oh boy, I have been obsessed, as you know, April, with productivity and how do I stay in my genius zone? How do I stay in my lane? And I have tested a lot of things over the last 7 years. And the number one hire I would make is a executive
Mm-hmm.
assistant. That would be the first thing that
Mm-hmm.
I would do, kind of looking back. And if you are like, ooh, I don't want to do sales, I don't want to do marketing, that means you don't want to do the part that's like the most essential to your business. So the thing I've written a check
Yes.
for over and over and over again has been mentorship and communities. The first 9 months of my business, I insisted on doing all local networking and I was super cheapy cheap about it. And then, like, the thing that changed everything was when I was willing to write a check to get into the room. And when I did that, I found peers that were serious. I found mentors that actually could just answer my question. And I found inspiration that I needed to be the driver for the marketing and the sales engine because, I already
Mm-hmm.
had something I was going to deliver. A lot of people overemphasize being good enough to get business. And actually, what you need is the communication path to get business, and you need the network.
Yeah. I love that. Well, unfortunately, we don't have forever today. I want to honor both your times. I know that you're busy women doing the things that move the needle. That's what I love. Not busy doing busy work, right? Big difference. But I do really believe one thing I love about being an entrepreneur is you can delegate out to other people's unique genius, right? And also that helps me stay in my feminine energy more than like when I was a lawyer litigator all the time and just doing things that were like very analytical, logical, masculine energy driven, which we still need that in our business to succeed. But I love that I get to lean into my feminine more. I have that freedom and I feel it helps us keep our sanity. So, what I'd love to hear is number one, when do you feel you're most feminine, like that energy flowing? And number two, what color is your feminine energy? So I can tell you, I feel most feminine when I'm coaching my clients just to like make it easy. I just feel in the flow. I'm so happy by noon on Wednesday. Like I'm happy as a lark because I coach on Wednesdays. And, it's community, communication, nurturing, like all those feminine essences that I love to tap into. And my color is actually magenta, more of a purple than a pink. I'm very specific about it. So, how about y'all?
That's such a good question. I think for me, it's like I love this business. And what I love is that when people are coming to you, like you're being a
Mhm.
part of such a big decisions that they're making in their lives,
Yes.
right? And so walking into that moment when they find the perfect home or they're like, this is it. And like they look at you and like, Ty, what do you think? And then being
Aw.
able to communicate through those things or communicate your, your feedback because they're leaning on you now. And so
Yeah.
I feel like that's the nurturing part that just comes out of us as women. It's a part of our
Mhm.
essence. And if I had to pick a color, I just always go for like a pink. Just it just feels good. It's soft. It's all of these things. But yeah,
I love it. And Amanda, how about you?
Goodness. You know what's funny is I hadn't really thought about it in like the masculine feminine side of things, but I get so excited when things are in order. When things are
Mm-hmm.
smooth and when the business is more profitable because we made a great decision about who we were partnering with, or we made a great decision about how we were organizing things and kind of putting things in a row. And I was thinking about it, I'm like, wow, that's kind of like when I feel the best in my home is when
Hmm.
when I've nested, or after when I was having kids, or decluttered a lot of things. Like that actually gives
Yeah.
me a lot of joy, and I love facilitating that for other people. Like I think we get really bogged down by complexity and disorganization and the wrong
Hmm.
sequencing. Yeah, and my color is
Hmm.
teal. I think I have like a teal sort of a
Love it.
a vibe. I do actually do a lot of work with men as well as women, and I don't know. It's the color I chose for my decor. So
No, I love it. But hey, men love the feminine energy. When I turned my sales process and my financial practice all feminine, like first day was about their values, their hopes, their dreams, like men were digging it. Like they want, I mean, if they trust you, they want to open up. They don't get asked these things, right? So it's really interesting. But again, I want to honor your time. So we are going to wrap up for the day. I'd love to chat with you all again. This was so fun. And I'm glad you two got to meet each other. Listeners, I'd love to hear from you. Where are you in your business? Go to YouTube and write comments. I will share them with Amanda and Ty, or shoot me an email, team@vixengathering.com. And as you know, I check all the DMs on all my social media, so you can communicate with us there. But give us feedback. What did you love most about this episode? What was your big takeaway? And share with us what's your favorite and least favorite, and what are your tips? We'd love to hear from you. So, as I always say, I feel the world needs more love. This is my last recording of the day, so I want to thank these two beautiful women because they brought joy to my heart. So, thank you both. And I just want to challenge everyone out there. How can you show up with more joy and more love today? How can you bring joy and love to others around you? Let's create that ripple effect, because we really can change the world just by doing that. So, ladies, thank you so much. I'm going to call you vixens. I love the term vixen. If you look up the definition of vixen, you'll see why. Like the female fox, it's really interesting. But thank you for joining us. Any last words for our audience before we hop?
this was amazing. And even in this space, I was able to learn some things. So I definitely appreciate you for doing this.
I love that. I tell you
yeah,
what, every time I
likewise.
guest and every time I host, I learn something. So thank you both. Same from you. Go for it, Amanda.
Thank you so much for having me. And, if there was one parting thing I would say is, you got to get through that first year before you get to the second and the third and the fourth
Yes.
and the fifth. And Paula Abdul said there's no traffic after the extra mile. So keep going.
I love it. I love it. All right, everyone. Have a beautiful day, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks again for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit subscribe so future episodes are automatically downloaded directly to your device. And if you want access to today's show notes, including links to all the resources we mentioned, visit vixengathering.com/podcast. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week for another episode of The Vixen Voice.